If you spent any time watching videos on YouTube, you will have heard this advice. Wait until 70 to take your Social Security. Your check will be bigger, and that's absolutely true, but that's not the whole story. I'm at an age where Social Security is becoming a serious consideration, so I decided to look at my actual numbers and ask a hypothetical question. What if I decided to retire this coming January? Would I be better off starting Social Security then, or waiting until my full retirement age, or holding out until 70? So if I decided to retire in January, my estimated Social Security benefit at 65 and 4 months, which is what I would be in January, is $3,105 a month. At my full retirement age of 67, it's about $3,535. And if I wait until 70, it's about $4,383 a month. Now, $4,383 certainly sounds better than $3,105, but there's something missing from that comparison. To get that extra $1,278, I have to give up years of 3105 checks first if I am not working, or I could work until I'm 70. So we're doing this on the idea that I will not be working until 70. So the question isn't just how much more would I get at 70, it's also what would it cost me to get there? And for this exercise, let's assume I decided to retire in January at age 65 and 4 months. This isn't an announcement. I'm not saying I'm going to retire in January. It's simply a useful starting point for comparing the numbers. So that is roughly $15,000 a year difference. And that larger benefit would continue for the rest of my life. But I just can't compare the $3,105 with the $4,383, because in that scenario, if I retired in January and didn't take Social Security, I'd still have to pay the bills during those years between 65 and 4 months and 70 years old. So if I think about what I would give up by waiting until 70, that would be about 56 months. And if we multiply the $3,105 by 56 months, then that would be $173,880 for waiting from 65 and 4 months to 70 years old. If I didn't sign up for Social Security, I would have received none of that. So when I turned 70, the version of me who started Social Security at 65 years old in 4 months would be approximately $173,880 ahead. At that point, everything would be going in the other direction. Because at 70, the delayed benefit, as I said, is $4,383. That's a difference of $1,278 a month. How long would it take me to recover that extra $1,278 compared to the $173,880? And that would be roughly 136 months. And that's about 11 years and 4 months. So putting that together, if I waited until 70 to begin getting Social Security, I would have to be 81 and 4 months old in order to actually break even on having waited. While this is a simplified calculation, but it gives you an idea. How much money am I going to have to give up in order to wait until I'm 70? This is where the calculation gets much more interesting, because age 81 isn't necessarily even my real break-even point. There's another $173,880 question hiding in the wings. If, hypothetically, I retired at 65 and Social Security wasn't paying me that money until 70, well, who would? And the answer is me. And once I include that, I'm not sure that the simple break-even calculation tells me everything I need to know. Where would the money come from? Maybe savings, maybe investment income, other household income, and maybe withdrawals from my 401k, or some combination of these things. But one way or another, the money would have to come from somewhere. If I took Social Security in January, I'd be receiving $3,105 a month, and that's $37,260 a year that wouldn't have to come from somewhere else. So if I delayed, some or all of that income would have to be replaced. And that's where I think the Social Security break-even calculation can become misleading. Suppose I replaced all of that missing Social Security with retirement account withdrawals. Over those 56 months, we're talking about the same $173,880. Because that's what I would have to do. I would have to have that in order to cover the expenses for that amount of time. And there's a potential other cost to this. So once I withdraw that money, whether it's yearly or monthly, it isn't invested anymore. So I haven't simply spent $173,880. I've also potentially given up whatever growth I might have generated during those years. And obviously, I have no idea what the market will do over those years, but there is an opportunity cost using my own money while I wait for Social Security. And that's something the age 81 break-even calculation doesn't even begin to capture. Waiting has a big advantage. I'm not going to say that waiting doesn't. There's another way of looking at exactly the same decision. Unlike an investment account, I wouldn't have to worry about what the stock market was doing with that Social Security check when it arrived. It was going to be the same every time. Whereas if it was invested in in investment accounts, it could easily go down. So if I lived in my late 80s and my 90s, that larger guaranteed income could become extremely valuable. Delaying Social Security can be thought of as a form of longevity insurance. I'd be giving up money earlier in exchange for more guaranteed income if I lived a very long time. My estimated benefit at 67 is $3,535 a month. That's $430 more every month than taking it at 65 and 4 months. But in our hypothetical January retirement scenario, I wouldn't have to fund almost 5 years without Social Security. I'd only have to bridge the gap from 65 and 4 months to 67, and that makes 67 an interesting middle ground because I'd have to give up some income early, but I'd get a permanently larger Social Security benefit. But I wouldn't have to bridge the entire distance to age 70. And when I look at my numbers, I think that option deserves as much consideration as either extreme, really. Then the question becomes, what happens if I don't make it to the break-even age? Here's the uncomfortable part. I have no idea how long I'm going to live. None of us do. If I waited until 70 and died at 75, financially waiting clearly wouldn't have been the winning strategy. If I lived to 95, that $4,383 starting benefit would look awfully good compared with $3,105. My simple break-even calculation puts the crossover at about 81 and 4 months. That's useful information, but I don't think I should make the entire decision based upon guessing whether I'm going to live to 81 or not. There's another factor that matters to me. What is this money worth to me at 65, right? 65 and 4 months. What is it worth to me to retire earlier than full retirement age or earlier than 70? If I decide to retire in my mid-60s, hopefully I'll have a lot of good years ahead of me. There's places I'd like to go, things I'd like to do. My wife and I would like to spend time with our family, and simply the freedom that comes with having more control over my own time. And money has a purpose. $3,105 a month in my mid-60s has value beyond what you can put in a spreadsheet. And at 85, I may spend less money traveling and doing some of the things I can do today. On the other hand, at 85, I might have financial security much more. And that's a trade-off. Would I want more income during the earlier years of retirement, or would I want to sacrifice some of that income to create a larger guaranteed check later? And there's no spreadsheet that can answer that for me. There's just not. So here's the question that this whole video has been about. Is waiting until 70 worth it? And for me, after doing the math with my actual Social Security estimates, here's where I land. Waiting until 70 is more attractive than I originally thought. The simple break-even point of roughly age 81 and 4 months isn't particularly extreme, and there may be a reasonable possibility of living well beyond that. And if I lived into my late 80s or 90s, having that guaranteed Social Security income would be extremely valuable. But I don't think that the difference in the money should make the decision. The real calculation, that series of balancing, between protecting retirement savings today and increased guaranteed income, all kind of goes away when you start thinking about this. For me, this exercise is more about what do I want out of my retirement. And my retirement is just not mine. It's my wife's and I's retirement. So what I want out of it can't be put into a spreadsheet, can't be calculated as to how long I'm going to live. Because what I want out of it is the time to do exactly what I'm doing now, which is making videos, writing songs. I want to be able to travel with my wife. She wants the same. And that we're in agreement that what we want is to be able to travel and to enjoy our life together. And I'd really like to hear from you what you did. What are you planning to do for retirement? If you like looking at retirement decisions this way, but actually doing the math, subscribe to our channel. Les is the New Retired, and we're trying to bring you something that can make you think about it in a different way. Thank you for watching.